Hi, Jessica.
Hi, Roger.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm excellent. And I want to welcome everybody here this evening for our little interview show. Today we have a very special guest with us, Jessica Karjala. And Jessica, can you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Sure. I'm a work incentives benefits planner for Aware Incorporated. And to try to summarize that shortly, I
Okay.
would say that I help people who are receiving benefits, disabled beneficiaries, with their benefits, because sometimes when you earn an income, it's somewhat punitive to earn an income and collect benefits at the same time, and I try to help people navigate the system.
Okay, and this is people of any age? Is it just adults? Can it be kids?
Typically people of age 16 and older, because that's the working age in Montana.
Okay, so can you give us an example of, maybe a typical kind of case?
Well, I've worked with someone that you and I both know,
Okay,
and this person is statutorily blind, and they were having trouble with their Medicare and Medicaid, and as a result we're paying what's called an increment, and we're trying to hold their work hours down to a certain level to what a lot of people refer to as SGA, and there's a lot of talk about SGA.
what does that mean?
Substantial gainful activity.
Okay.
And anyone who collects benefits and works knows what this means. This falls back to a couple of things. That would be Social Security's disability definition and how they determine trial work period months and whether or not a person is disabled and terminating or getting off of benefits within a trial work period, if that makes sense.
Wow, this sounds complicated.
It's not once you're familiar with the system, but at first it is a little overwhelming, a little bit difficult.
Okay. Say you are an individual with a disability and maybe you're receiving benefits less than 18, before 18. What kind of considerations might the parents or the individual need to maybe work on, to gain, to be able to work, to be able to get their benefits?
Great question, Roger. Well, there are a couple of things at stake here. When a beneficiary is turning age 18, they're what we commonly know as a transitioning youth. And that can have bearing on that definition of a disability. So when someone turns 18, they have to be redetermined as an adult beneficiary, and many things can happen from that point on. You're probably more familiar with this than I am. Parents of transitioning youth are certainly familiar with this issue, and if they're not, I highly recommend that they learn more about it. But it is critical because the Social Security Administration determines a disability under three criteria. One is a medical determination, and one is your ability to earn at substantial gainful activity. So it's somewhat twofold. So you have to have a medical condition that prevents you from earning at what's called a substantial gainful activity. There are several factors that play into that. Then to add to it, there's another type of benefit that someone can receive in a non-permanent status, which is a medical condition that can be expected to result within 12 months. However, we're going to talk about the permanent status definition, and with a transitioning youth, that comes into play with Social Security's definition of disability, because there's something that they use called a blue book, and there are line listings within this book, and if you don't meet a listing, then you may or may not be considered disabled. So,
Okay.
the reason that comes into play with the transitioning youth is that there are listings that will qualify someone under the age of 18 for disability benefits. However, once they turn 18, they may no longer be eligible for benefits because there is not a definition for someone over the age of 18 for that same disability.
So you have to requalify?
You have to be redetermined,
Ah,
to use their language, yes. And I would recommend that parents absolutely go talk to the Social Security Administration at age 17. I would recommend being very proactive so that there's not a gap in coverage there.
so bottom line, it is possible to work and receive benefits.
It is possible, yes.
So how does that work? I mean, what do you need to do to make that work? Call you?
Yes, call me. A lot of people would say, isn't the whole purpose in collecting benefits the idea that you are unable to work? And even deferring back to that definition of disability, isn't that the whole idea that your medical condition prevents you, and or mental health diagnosis prevents you from working at a substantial gainful activity? But again, we're going to go back to SGA and substantial gainful activity. There is an amount that a person can earn, whether they're receiving SSI or SSDI. Those are the two types of benefits that someone who is disabled can qualify for. There are certain amounts that a person can earn under SSDI, which will trigger what's called a trial work period, at which time they're allowed 9 months of a trial work period on a rotating basis. They can be non-consecutive. And once they use up all 9 of those trial work period months, they enter into a consecutive 3-month period called a grace period, at which time their cash benefits will end. This is not alarming because you are allowed to work and collect your SSDI benefit. You will still be considered disabled as long as you're working under that trial work period amount. And so it's important to watch that number. It's important to consult with someone like me so that you know what those numbers are. They change every year. And the reason that you don't want to maybe trigger a trial work period is that, say, a transitioning youth is just trying to decide if they want to work. You want to maybe keep them under that amount.
So that's a dollar amount, that's calculated individually. Is that how it works?
That is a dollar amount, and for 2009 it was $700 per month. Those amounts have changed for 2010.
Okay, so as long as somebody's working underneath that amount, it's not affecting their benefits, more or less.
More or less, right. And so if they're under that amount, they have nothing to worry about. The problem with that, though, is that a lot of people think, oh, if I just stay under SGA, I'm fine. And they never really take advantage of, say, something called a work incentive.
Okay, so what's that?
That is something that allows a beneficiary to earn their cash benefits and keep their cash benefits and earn a little bit more than, say, maybe that trial work period amount, where when you have a disability, say a developmental disability, someone who has a developmental disability is not going to perform their job, say, at the same performance level as someone without.
Ah, okay.
And what that allows this beneficiary to receive is something called a subsidized work condition.
Okay.
So if they need a little more prompting, say if there's a memory problem or a cognitive problem, or sometimes there's even a behavioral problem where they just need a little extra help on the job, a job coach can come into play with the subsidy. And the way that that would work would be that the person's job description would be considered. You'd determine what amount of the job descriptions that this person requires a little extra help, if they need a job coach or if they need a coworker to actually perform that duty for them. You determine the amounts of the job that they're subsidized for, that they're helped with. And that amount can be, I guess, somewhat disregarded in terms of their earned income, so that it doesn't come into play with their cash benefits. And it allows them to keep their cash benefit and earn maybe a little bit more income without triggering trial work period. But, going back to that though, Some people can find that they are so competent at their job. So say somebody with a physical impairment or even a developmentally disabled person is so good at their job that they decide they don't need their job coach anymore, and their boss agrees. They can work through their trial work periods. They can earn more money. They can go through that grace period. They will continue to receive their Medicare, and they will be earning a living without their cash benefit. But that's a certain population, you know. The reason that you want to talk to somebody like me is to determine whether or not they want that, whether or not they're even capable of that, if they do want it.
Wow. So, wow. No wonder you need to talk to people like you. This is not easy to do on your own, is it?
It's not easy to do on your own, and I don't recommend it because what I'm finding more often than not is that people have gotten into trouble with their benefits. What has ended up happening oftentimes is that when someone does not have an analysis done of their benefits, they will end up in what's called an overpayment status. They have been receiving a cash benefit when they should not have been receiving a cash benefit. And this is a problem because Social Security will then step in and say that the beneficiary owes them that money back.
That's not good.
That's not good because if that person was not ever eligible for a work incentive, there's no way for me to fix it. But a worst case scenario is to negotiate a repayment plan that's workable, affordable for that beneficiary, and I can help arrange that.
So are there any other kind of programs or strategies that people can use to be able to work or increase their or that you've used with some of the clients?
A work incentive?
Mm-hmm.
Another common work incentive is what's called an impairment-related work expense, an IRWI.
Ah, okay.
And you'll hear this term used more often than any other work incentive. What's difficult about an IRWI is that it's a work expense that a beneficiary pays themselves out of their own pocket.
Okay.
The problem with that is that they have to come up with a burden of proof that they're paying for this work expense. They also have to prove that it's work-related, that this is something that they have to pay for that's absolutely necessary for them to perform their job.
So typically, I mean, an example of that, like what?
A lot of people want to use it for transportation.
Okay.
However, if the Social Security Administration determines that this person has a public transit system available to them that they can utilize, they will not reimburse somebody in their cash benefit for paying for something like a taxi or paying a private driver. However, if they live in an area where there is not a public transit system available, they will look at that expense that that person has to pay to get to work. And the way that it works then is that when the person pays for it out of pocket to get to work, they submit their receipts to the Social Security Administration. The Social Security Administration then reimburses those amounts and those work expenses back into their cash benefit.
Oh, okay.
They can also be used for job coaching.
Okay.
And what's nice about that then, going back to job coaching, when a person is on supplemental security income versus SSDI disability insurance, they're not eligible for a subsidy when they are an SSI recipient.
Okay.
However, they can use the impairment-related work expenses for their job coach. What's great about an IRWI is that unlike what you often hear through vocational program, you know, a lot of times people are told there's a waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
I commonly hear that there's a 2-year waiting period. What's great about an IRWI is that the beneficiary can pay for the job coach up front. That's an out-of-pocket work expense that they're paying for themselves to be able to perform their job. The Social Security Administration would honor that as a necessity to perform that job, and then they would reimburse that beneficiary back in their cash benefit for the job coach, so they could be instantly set up with job coaching, and it's great.
Wow. Wow, that's another good one.
Yes.
Is there any others?
There are others. There are student earned income exclusions, and the trial work period is...
Yeah, what does that mean?
Okay, well, when someone is enrolled in an educational vocational program,
Okay,
they are eligible for what's called a student earned income exclusion. And they can exclude up to a certain amount of their expenses for their education with their earned income.
so this is their educational expenses?
It can be,
Oh,
yes.
it can be.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. And what's nice about that then is with transitioning youth or someone who is reentering the workforce and attending a vocational program, they can earn an income and exclude much more of their earned income than they could under, say, maybe an IRWE, where it has to be work-related.
Exactly.
They're given a higher amount of disregard with the student earned income exclusion that makes paying for tuition and books, etc., a little bit easier for that person.
Okay,
So it's an incentive to work while you're going to school. It's a work incentive.
wow, that's really good.
Yes, it's great.
What else? Any others?
Well, there are others. What I'd really like to talk about, though, is this idea that when someone works, it's punitive.
Right, yeah,
That when you collect a disability benefit, that you're not eligible to earn a living. If you do, then you're going to lose your cash benefits, or you're going to lose your Medicaid.
right. That's typical of, those are the problems we see. That's why we call you.
Well, yeah, the medical coverage is critical with someone with a disability, and you absolutely don't want to risk losing that.
Right.
So it is important to consult with a benefits planner. I want to go back to SSI, if you'll
Go.
allow me,
Go.
because I was talking about how earned income affects SSDI with trial work period amounts, etc. With SSI, and earned income affects that benefit differently.
Oh, okay.
So with supplemental security income, unearned income is deducted from a cash benefit check dollar for dollar minus a $20 disregard, if that makes sense. So
Really?
any money that you receive that is not earned is deducted off of your cash benefit check dollar for dollar, except for $20 disregard that
Right.
they give you. However, when you work, it's only 50%, so it's half of every dollar earned taken off of your cash benefit check, which is a small incentive to work or a large incentive to work,
Right.
depending on who you are.
Is that calculated net, gross?
It's off of your gross pay.
Gross pay, okay.
Thank you for asking. Yes. However, then there's an earned income disregard. And then you can bring in your work incentives that are deducted off of that.
Okay,
And thinking in terms of just SSI, those would be an impairment-related work expense, a
Okay.
student earned income exclusion, and a PASS plan if the income and benefit criteria allow for it.
okay. You want to explain a little bit about past plans?
Well, there's a lot being said about PASS plans. They seem to be the cure-all for everything lately. I would encourage people to just be leery of some of the things that you hear. Not that there's misinformation out there, but I think that there's misunderstanding about what a PASS plan can and cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
And so a PASS plan cannot bridge a gap between, say, a change in disability status from a transitioning youth into adult beneficiary, or it can't fill a gap. However, what a PASS plan does allow a beneficiary is that when they're working and working toward a vocational goal, they can apply for a PASS plan that will allow them to earn more than they typically would under the conditions for SSDI. So what this allows them to do...
SSDI or SSI?
DI,
Just DI.
yes.
Okay. I was thinking about maybe talking from the employer's point of view on maybe benefits for hiring somebody. with a disability. Are there benefits for an employer to do that?
That's a great question, and there are incentives for an employer to hire someone with disabilities. There are tax breaks given to employers when they hire someone with a disability who is a beneficiary.
Okay.
What's important for an employer to know is that they need to contact state offices, say Department of Health and Human Services and or the Vocational Rehabilitation Office, to find out what those tax incentives are. And when they need to apply for them, it's my understanding that they need to apply for those benefits before hiring somebody with a disability.
Really?
Yes. Unfortunately, yes.
Wow.
So it's important to be proactive, and I think it's important for those of us who are in the services community to talk about prospective employers and get in touch with them and let them know the incentives that are available to them, and that they need to be proactive about all of this so that it's a win-win relationship.
Wow, that's interesting. So, do you know of other kinds of incentives for employers?
I really couldn't say that there's a greater incentive than in the idea that you're helping someone to a greater quality of life. Someone who is a disability beneficiary has the same goals and the same aspirations in life. They want to have a job. They want to have the same goals in life that we do. They don't want to be meeting people in a social setting, and when somebody asks them, so what do you do? They don't want to say, I collect benefits.
Right.
They want to say, this is my job, this is what I do. I work at a local hotel and I help with maintenance and cleaning issues, and I love my job. What's in that for an employer? An employer knows that they've helped that person improve their quality of life. When I speak to employers of beneficiaries, often they value their disabled employees. They like working with them, and oftentimes they will say that they're a member of their team. There's a lot more to what that person contributes to the work environment than just doing their job.
Right. So you've had a lot of experience. How long have you been doing this?
I've only been doing it for about a year and a half.
But you've been working with people all over the state, haven't you?
I have been.
And I don't know, what's the environment like? Are employers, fairly good? Do you see improvement? What's it like out there for people?
In every experience that I've come across, Roger, it's been a very supportive environment from the employer.
Fabulous.
Yes.
That's good news.
Yes. I've talked to state employers, government employers.
Right.
I've talked to employers in the private sector. And across the board, it's been consistent that the employers are very supportive of helping someone who is on a disability benefit in their employment situation in any way that they can. In one experience, and will be two now, these employers have probably gone above and beyond the call of duty to support this person when they've gotten into an overpayment situation, and they've been willing to write and sign letters in support of this person to implement retroactive work incentives that allow this person to take advantage of work incentive that they didn't know was available to them in the past, to help clear up the problems with the benefits and to keep their medical benefits.
Wow, that's great.
It is great. Yeah. I've met really great people, beneficiaries, great employers. I've consistently been impressed. And I would like to see a discussion where those employers that are employing people on benefits talk to prospective employers about the benefits and the advantages of bringing someone like this into their workforce.
Yeah.
Because I think that they do fill a gap, and this is my personal opinion, but I do think that a beneficiary is going to take a job, say, that maybe someone else might not, who doesn't have a disability.
Right.
They're going to appreciate the chance and the opportunity just to get a foot in the door, just to have that opportunity.
Exactly. Well, my experience too. Everybody wants to work.
Yes.
They all do.
Yeah. And it's great to be part of that, to facilitate that on both ends, and to see the great things that are happening. And really, when you think about the kinds of jobs that are out there and available right now in what are considered economically challenged times right now, I think that there's a market for people on benefits.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there are those types of jobs that maybe are a little lower in pay or have fewer hours that can fill a niche or fill a need for a business owner.
It's fabulous.
Yes.
Well, we just have got a couple of minutes. Is there
Okay.
any last words? Well, I hate to say last words. But for the people out there, anything you'd like them to know, now's your chance to say it.
Yeah, I would, thank you, Roger. I would just like to encourage people to come and have an analysis and a summary of their benefits done so that they don't encounter problems, so that they understand how their benefits work, and so that they can more accurately assess their opportunities in terms of earning an income.
So it really is planning is key.
Planning.
So you kind of know where you're going and what the rules are and what the limits are.
Absolutely.
Okay. And that sort of avoids a lot of problems in the future.
Avoids a lot of problems and allows for greater quality of life for people who are receiving benefits.
Okay. Well, that's fabulous. Jessica, thank you.
You're welcome.
And thank you all for joining us this evening, and have a good one. Good night.